Hey, it's Tomora here. Welcome to another episode of my tutorial series about making a farm game in Unity, or as you may know it, making HayDay. In this episode we will develop yet another very important system, a saving system. It will be very simple and beginner friendly. It will work with JSON strings and files. I will explain everything in a bit. To recap, in the previous episode we handled one of the crucial mechanics in the game, goods production. And we also finished the storage manager system so the player can keep track of the resources. By the way, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications to not miss out on the new episodes. Just a reminder that we're going to build upon what we already have, so if you haven't seen the previous episodes, go check them out. And if you just want to skip writing code, you can support me on Patreon and get the source code along with the project files. And now, let's get to the video. But before we do this, let me introduce you to the sponsor of this video, WingFox and their Unity Visual Scripting course. Have you ever wished that your game development would go faster and without the need to write a lot of code? Then visual scripting is what you're looking for. But there is a problem. If you ever tried it, you know that it can be confusing to figure out on your own. Not to worry though, because I have a solution for you. A Unity Visual Scripting course from WingFox. With the help of this course, you will learn about visual scripting from the basics, no prior experience needed, get to know what's the difference between creating a graph visually and writing code, and most importantly study the whole flow of developing a game with visual scripting. You will master variables, events, loops, lists and dictionaries and much more. All the things you need to know to develop your game with visual scripting, you will know by the end of this course. What I personally like about it is that it uses practical examples and even has a full hyper-casual game made by the end of it. So you will learn about all the aspects of creating a game with Unity Visual Scripting from start to finish. If you're ready to boost your visual scripting and Unity knowledge, follow the link in the description and start creating your next great game. First things first, let's look at how things work. But not in the original HayDay game, because we can't exactly look inside of it. What we can do is look at the system that we're going to develop. The system will use files to save players' progress in the form of JSON. This is not the most secure way to save info because such simple files are easy to tamper. However, since a lot of people here are beginners, this way will give you a basic understanding of how saving in files works and also make debugging easier because JSON is easily readable. Each object that needs to be saved will have its own save data, which is a serializable class. It'll have a string ID and a bunch of fields that'll have data needed to load the state of the object. In addition to that, there will be one general save data that'll have all the object data. This serializable object will be converted to a JSON string and written into a file. At the beginning of the game, the data from the file will be loaded and the state of the objects will be restored. Let's get to coding. First, create a folder for saving system. In it, create a few scripts. Data, placeable object data, save data, and save system. That's all we're gonna need for today, no extra prefabs or UI. Open up the scripts in your IDE. We'll start with data. It is going to be a serializable abstract class that is going to be the base for all the other object data classes. It is going to have a string ID. Next, move on to the placeable object data. Make it serializable and also make it inherit from the data class. Create your string field called asset name. It is going to be used to instantiate the object. Because when you start a new game, you don't have anything on the map, so you have to place everything at runtime. Next up is the main class for saving, save data. Write a serializable attribute about the declaration of the class. Don't forget to remove the mono behavior, I did it a bit later. Create a static int called id count. Also, create a dictionary with strings, as in IDs, and placeable object data, called placeable object data. As for the methods, create a static method that returns a string and call it generateID. Increase the ID count by 1 and return it with a string conversion. Next, we're gonna have two methods for adding and removing object data. The first one is addData, which will accept a data, our base class. Then, in the if, determine if the data is placeable object data. If yes, check if the dictionary of data contains the past data ID. If so, update that object to the newer version. In else, just add the past data to the dictionary. As a key, pass data ID. Next, create a method removeData that also accepts a data instance. It is going to have a similar if statement, so we can just copy that. Remove the else block and modify the if block to remove the data instead of adding it. When you deserialize this class and somehow it was present but the dictionary with object wasn't created, it would throw you an error right at the beginning of the game. In order to prevent it, write an attribute onDeserialized. Then write internal void onDeserialized method which accepts a streaming context. Inside of it, write placeable object data's double question mark and equal sign. After that, create a new dictionary. These operators mean that you check if the object is null and then assign the new dictionary. Now, moving on to the saving system script, which will be responsible for the actual work with files. First, make this class static and remove the mono behavior inheritance. Next, write a few fields. A static string named read-only save folder that equals to application data path plus my saves. Don't forget to put slashes at both ends, so your folder will actually be right. Next, write a constant string file name that equals save file. Also, create a save extension that in my case will be .sav. You can actually write whatever you want here. After this, create two public fields for the file name with a private set and the file path. Moving on to the methods. The first one is a static void method initialize. In it, check if the file directory doesn't exist. If yes, then create it. After that, initialize the file name with the file name variable plus extension. And in a similar way, create a file path that consists of save folder name, file name, and extension. Create a static void save which accepts a save data object. Then create a variable settings and initialize it with a new JSON serializer settings. Then in settings, get reference loop handling and set it to ignore. Then create a variable string called saveString and initialize it. For this, call JSON convert.serializeObject. Pass the save object and the settings. I also print out the save string. After that, call file.writeAllText, passing the file path and the save string. Next up is the static load method that returns a save data object. In it, check if the file exists. In the if, read the save string using file.readAllText. Print out the string for checking, and then create save data field and initialize it. Call JSON convert deserializeObject. As type, specify that it is the save data. Pass the save string. Then check if the loaded object is null. If yes, return a new save data. Otherwise, return the loaded object. And in the else, return a new save data object. That is it for this script. Go to the placeable object script. We're gonna need to make a few more modifications to this script. First, create a private field shop item. This is going to be used for getting the prefab of the building since a shop item contains it. Next, write a read-only attribute. Make sure that you actually import the right one from unity.collections. Then, write a public placeable object data, and create it right away. Next, write a public void initialize that accepts a shop item. In it, set the shop item field called item to the item passed. Assign the asset name in the data to the item name. This is the name of that scriptable object that we're going to use for loading it from the resources. Also, initialize the data ID by getting a new one from the save data. You can also do it right in the constructor of the placeable object data class. After this method, create another one also called initialize. It will accept a shop item and placeable object data. In it, initialize the shop item in the class and also the data. Now, another method that we'll need is onApplicationQuit. I actually made a bit of a mistake here and wrote the method onDisable, but if you look at Unity lifecycle, you can see that onApplicationQuit is called before onDisable. We're gonna use that to properly save. Anyways, in this method, assign the position to the transform position. You can also do it every time you move the object and place it. Head to the shop item drag and correct this statement. Create a variable object that is assigned from the built-in system initialize with object method. Then get the placeable object component and call the initialize method passing the item. Next, go to the game manager script. Create a public save data field. Then create a serialized field of type string called shopItemsPath and assign the word shop to it. In the awake method, call the same system initialize method. Next, create a void called load placeable object. In it, create a for each loop to go through all the placeable object data values from the save data object. In it, write the try catch block. We don't need to print anything out or throw, so just comment that out. Inside, get the shop item using the shop items path with the asset name from the data. Next, call the built-in system initialize with object and pass the prefab that you get from the loaded item and the position from the data. Save the returned object. After that, get the placeable object component. Call the initialize method on it, passing the item and the data. Also call the load method that we had from when we were loading the storage buildings in one of the previous episodes. And finally, create an onDisable method and call the save system save method and pass the save data. Now, go back to the placeable object on application quit. Call the game manager, save data, and add data, passing the data from the object, of course. One more thing to do. If you start the game now, you'll see that every time you save and load, the object keeps jumping. This is because in our built-in system we make a bit of an offset. So go to the method initialize with object and modify it to accept another parameter, a bool raw position. Its default value is false. Inside the method, write an if for not raw position. Move the block of coordinate conversion inside this if. Correct things, remove the new position variable and just use pause instead. And we're done! Hit play and check if everything works. First, place an object onto the map. Exit play mode, we can see the JSON string written. When you hit play mode again, you can see that the object we placed is successfully loaded. Now, the same way you save and load a placeable object, you can load other objects. The principle is the same, and I've explained it at the beginning of the video. So thank you for watching. Now we can save and load our map in the game and have a foundation to save everything else. The next episode will be about saving this to a server, which will open up more possibilities for game mechanics. So subscribe to my channel and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. And don't forget to check out my Discord server where you can share your work, chat with me and other game devs. Also, I'd like to thank all my patrons for supporting me and welcome new members, especially Salvatore Bosco, Zuda's World, Cutscene Entertainment, Al Wellness, Jorge Costa. See you in the next video. Bye!